Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Thursday. It's January 19th. It is 2023, and with it being Thursday, for at least one more time this season, we're here to talk some NFL. And as always on NFL days, joining me today is my good buddy Keith Eister, Eys819. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
I'm ready to talk some NFL because the NBA slate on Wednesday night did not go so well. I loved Domantas Sabonis, so when he got the midday downgrade to questionable, I suddenly liked the slate a lot less. I pivoted some of that to LaMelo Ball, and that did not work out as he left with an injury. So ready to move on from Wednesday night NBA and talk about this playoff football slate for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the extra survey, you would see that my favorite tournament play was LaMelo Ball, and the person that I planned on being overweight on was LaMelo Ball. So the ball was not in his court tonight. Listen, we hope it's nothing serious. Hopefully it's something. He's a super talented young player. Want to see him back. But like it was a weird night for like NBA as well. Like Kendrick Williams had a double-double with like 10 assists. Like there was some randomness to NBA, not NFL, NBA for Wednesday night. So
For sure.
it's on like Donkey Kong shirt. We're hanging out with everybody on YouTube, ready to break down this NFL 4-game slate, and it's a doozy. It's a doozy. Oh, yeah. We had some good games last week. Listen, not every week we get a lot right, but we got a lot right last week.
Nailed our underdogs, that's for sure. You had Giants, I had Jaguars, and they're the two underdogs that won.
I mean, we said all year the Vikings defense was going to be the death of them, and it was. The Jags, I mean, that was the most Chargers thing ever to lose that game. And, you don't see like Andy Reid lose games like that because he doesn't let off the gas. And it was just a completely different offense for the Chargers in the second half of that game. And yeah, I mean, they should have won that game. There's no doubt about it. They should have won that game. So, but
they got 4 picks from Trevor Lawrence. I think I saw a stat, something about turnover margin. They were the first team to win turnover margin and lose in the playoffs or something like that. It just wild stuff from the Chargers for sure. I can't believe Brandon Staley is going to somehow manage to keep his job after the last month that he's had or whatever. He gets the Mike Williams gets injured in the Week 18 game that meant nothing, and then they lose after having a big lead in the wild card round. So tough run out for Brandon Staley, but he's going to stick around apparently.
For now. Yep. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, like I said, we got 4 NFL games. We're going to break these down. Next week, we might do NFL and NBA. Ton of NBA content on RotoGrinders for Thursday's slate, so check all that out. Wanted to give football one last week here, at least one last week, with it being this slate's so much fun. Like there's so many ways to attack and build lineups on this slate, and I was just like, we're gonna talk football. I didn't even talk to Keith. I just said, hey, NFL. That's what we're doing. So all right, let's
totally good with me.
I knew you weren't gonna no oppose there. So let's get started here. First look, like always, if you haven't checked out Sleeper Fantasy, check them out. 100% deposit bonus up to $100. 100% up to $100. Use promo code Grinders, and we'll have our Sleeper pick of the week. We went 3 for 4 on the Sleeper last week. I think it was like 1.5x. We needed Fournette to get there. I needed Fournette to get there.
That
so was many different. Yeah.
That was brutal. I was way overweight on him in the showdown slate as well. I cannot believe, I was planning sort of for that game script. I like Dallas to win, but I thought Fournette was going to get a ton of work out of the backfield, and it just did not happen. It was all Rachaad White. That was one thing I definitely got wrong last week. That one hurt.
Yeah, listen, I had a lot of good props going. I needed Lenny to get there, and he didn't. So, but yeah. We get started here with the first game of the weekend, 4:30 game on Saturday. I think FanDuel's doing 2-2. DraftKings main slate is the 4-game main slate. I said this last week. I'll say it again. I'm going to focus more on the 4-game slate, so that's what we're going to kind of break down here today. Jacksonville at Kansas City, 52.5 total here. Kansas City is an 8.5-point favorite going up against the Jags. Keith, I mean, we're at that time of the year where, you can look at defensive stats. You kind of know who's going to be good against what, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These teams are playing and everything is they're giving their guys the ball. They're throwing the guys that need to be thrown to, and it just doesn't matter at this point. Like the guys that are supposed to be out there outside of Leonard Fournette are going to be out there. We get started with the Jacksonville side of this game. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence last week, 4 interceptions, bounced back with 4 touchdowns, 288 passing yards against the Chargers. Like, what are your thoughts here on the Jacksonville Jags?
Yeah, I mean, I like them. There's a lot of really good defenses on this slate. I think Kansas City, for being such an elite team, has one of the weaker defenses. So we're expecting Kansas City to play from ahead here, or at least I am. So interested in this passing game. Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good. I know he got off to a really rough start last week, but over the last month or so, he's been really good. So I like this passing game. I think they're going to throw it a ton here. Christian Kirk at 6K is still just not pricey enough, in my opinion. Awesome roll. Saw another 8 targets last week. Caught the touchdown pass. So Christian Kirk at 6K, one of my favorite wide receivers on the slate. Zay Jones at 4,700, I think certainly can be involved as well. And Marvin Jones at 3,600, also involved. Evan Ingram, tight end, 4,300. Like, I just love this whole passing game. I think Kansas City is able to score on Jacksonville plenty. They're going to be playing from behind, and Trevor Lawrence is going to drop back 40 to 50 times. So I love Trevor Lawrence. I love all the pass catchers here. You can sprinkle in ETN as well. 6,400 is about where he should be priced, in my opinion. I wish he was getting more pass down work, but he hasn't gotten it all season. He'll get his 2 to 3 catches, and that's about it. But at 6,400, I think he's still in play. He got the 100-yard bonus last week. I think he could do that again here in the spot.
Yeah, I mean, ETN is like you said, the only problem with him is just not getting the passing work. We'll see, like, if Jamal Agnew, if he plays or not, that could be a potential bump in the passing game for ETN. They still have, is it Hasty as well, that they could use. But listen, Christian Kirk had 14 targets last week. We talked about Evan Ingram on the podcast last week. He had 11 targets last week against the Chargers. I had some really good double tight end lineups last week. Double tight ends was just the tight end smashed last week. So this is one of those scenarios where you have the best tight end on the slate on the other side of this game. Maybe the way that you get different is maybe taking some shots on Ingram with Kelsey. But I like Kirk. I'm with you. I think Lawrence is in play. He's going to have to throw the ball a ton in this game. For this game to stay competitive, he's going to need to, chuck the rock around the field. So, I mean, some of those interceptions weren't his fault. So I think that if the Jags are going to keep up in this game, we're going to need a big game from Trevor Lawrence. So Lawrence and Kirk, Lawrence and Jones, either Jones, and then Ingram is kind of how I'm going to approach this game. I'll be underweight on ETN on this slate. I'm really just worried about the pass work, and I don't see the Jaguars getting up by 2 touchdowns in this game and ETN getting 25 carries. If that happens, I'm going to lose money anyway, so it's not going to matter. The Kansas City side of this one, I mean, obviously you have the team that throws the ball a ton. You have a team that is not going to let off the gas if they get up by 3 or 4 touchdowns in this game. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Hurts. We have just the quarterback play alone on the slate's fantastic. So, looking at pricing between Holmes and Allen and Hurts, you can make an argument for any 3 of these guys. They're all within $400 of each other, and then the price goes way down after that. They're the 3 studs. You're going to be building around these 3 guys in a lot of your lineups this week. But, yeah, I mean, I have a ton of interest in Pat Mahomes, and Honestly, like, I do have a ton of interest in Kelsey, but I think this is a game where, like, we could see McKinnon have a big game. I could see Juju having a good game here. I know that, like, Edwards-Helaire could potentially play in this game, but I don't know if that would necessarily hurt McKinnon. I think McKinnon's role is safe. I think it hurts Pacheco if it hurts anybody. What are your thoughts here on Kansas City?
Yeah, all about the passing game for sure. Mahomes, an outstanding option. It's kind of tough to get Mahomes Kelsey stacks as it has been here recently, especially with the amount of other great wide receivers that we have on the slate. So I might be trying to go a little cheaper with my Mahomes stacks. I love the McKinnon call. He's had a fantastic role here over the second half of the season, scoring a ton of touchdowns, getting the receiving work, and he's involved in the running game as well. So I like the McKinnon call a lot. You can certainly stack him with Mahomes because of his pass catching role. The receiving core has been difficult to figure out. Juju's fine at 5,100, but I think my favorite guy is Kadarius Toney. He's 4,100, so you save 1,000, and they've designed plays for him down in the red zone. Had the touchdown in week 18. I think that Toney gets involved here. I'll save the money and go down to Toney. I still like Juju, and I'll play a little bit of him, but I'll probably have more Toney.
You have to remember at the end of the day, Juju, Toney, Scantling, all these guys are secondary pieces. The number one wide receiver in this team is Travis Kelce. I mean, yeah. There's no sugarcoating it. He's the guy. And this is the type of game where we see Kelce go for like 6 to 10 catches, 80 to 120 yards, and 1 or 2 touchdowns. And he just crushes. So he's 7,700. And when you're comparing that, he's a top end wide receiver price. That's the same price as like AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs. Most slates, I'm going to give Kelce the nod over all the other tight ends on this slate. So, like you said, though, it's tough. Like if you're going to play Mahomes, it's really tough to get Kelce. I think if you're playing Mahomes Kelce, you might end up like on a 2 tight end build. Whether it be Ingram or Schultz or Goddard, those guys in the 4K range that have like 6 to 8 catch ability. That's how you're going to have to kind of make your, Kansas City builds, but definitely going to be stacking Kansas City. I don't mind playing Mahomes with McKinnon. I think that is a really sneaky stack in this game. And then you could pair that with a Toney or a Juju and, get that 3-man Kansas City stack on a 4-game slate here. So fun game. I don't think I'm playing defenses from this game. If I was going to play a defense from this game, it'd probably be Kansas City. I'm expecting this to be one of the higher scoring games on the weekend. And upside wise, I mean, again, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions last week. He hasn't thrown double-digit interceptions since week 8 against Denver. I still don't think Kansas City defense has a ton of upside, but they would be the defense I'd play in this game if I was going to if I had to pick one. But I don't, because we have other teams. We have other games. Speaking of other games, we got the Giants coming off of a good win against Minnesota, going up against Philadelphia. 48.5 total in this one. Philadelphia is a 7.5 point favorite. We'll start here with the Giants. I mean, the Philadelphia defense has been fantastic this season. Really tough team to kind of crack. I mean, was it 22-48 the last time these two teams played in the Philadelphia side? So, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have interest in this game on the Philly side, but what are we doing here with the Giants?
Yeah, tough spot for the Giants for sure. I think their best path to keeping this game close is a monster game from Saquon Barkley. The receiving prices have adjusted a little bit. Richie James is still too cheap, but Hodgins got a big bump up to 4,900. Still in play at that price. Guy's been really good here. Slayton at 4,200. Like the receivers are still all very cheap, and I think they're going to be trailing in this game, and they're going to be throwing a ton in the second half. So they're certainly all in play. But Barkley would be my favorite. We saw him get a little bit of receiving work last week. Caught 5 balls, had 6 targets. So I think no matter the game script, Barkley is still in play. if he's having success early, they're going to lean on him super heavy. So I do like Saquon Barkley here. You have to pay for him. You're sacrificing a Kelsey or one of the elite receivers to do it. But I think he can compete with those guys and put up that type of score. Daniel Jones has been running the ball a ton, so that's going to be part of their game plan here as well. He's still really cheap. Daniel Jones is in play. Like he can rush for 2 touchdowns, as well as throw for a couple as well. So I think Jones has upside. Barkley has upside. The receivers are too cheap, and they're all very much in play for me. If I had to pick my favorite receiver, I think I'm leaning Slayton. Just because of the Hodgins price bump, Richie James doesn't quite have the ceiling. I think I'd go Slayton as my favorite wide receiver.
Way to steal my thunder. Yeah, I like Darius Slayton a lot. I like Daniel Jones, man. This is a guy, like, he's not afraid to use his legs. And I mean, yeah, Josh Allen is on this slate and Jalen Hurts is on this slate, but he's at a massive discount from these guys. And like you said, like, the Giants should play from behind most of this game. So even if they're ahead, he still runs a little bit. Like, this is one of those games where you could get Daniel Jones getting 30 fantasy points, keeping up with these big dogs on the slate at a much lower price tag. And, you know, those are the types of teams you can play like Kelsey and try to get Mahomes' production through Kelsey type of builds.
Yeah,
so, or like even go Kelsey McKinnon and try to get like, you know, 3 of the 5 Kansas City touchdowns through those 2 guys or something. So a lot of builds you can like make with Daniel Jones as your quarterback. So he's definitely someone that I'll be playing this weekend. Like the Barkley call. I mean, any of the 3 wide receivers, I'm still not buying this like Bellinger thing. I know he scored a touchdown last week, but we have massive upside at tight end this week. I don't see Bellinger having like a 3 touchdown game, and he's going to have like 2 to 4 catches at most. So Philadelphia side, I mean, Jalen Hurts looked a little rusty in week 18 against this Giants team. Yeah, rusty. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, this is the best matchup defensively on the slate. If we want to look at stats, this has been the worst. This is the worst defense that's still alive in the playoffs. These guys and the Jags, but Jalen Hurts is 7,600. He has big upside. AJ Brown is going to be his main target, but in tournaments, I mean, I definitely don't mind Devontae Smith. No one is playing Devontae Smith this week at 72 with AJ Brown at 76. So getting some Devontae Smith teams, getting some Goddards. I mean, Miles Sanders in a fantastic spot if they would actually give him the rock in this game. They have gone back to not running the ball a ton, but I mean, Jalen Hurts has been banged up. What are your thoughts here on Philadelphia?
Yeah, the Miles Sanders thing is really interesting, and I'm probably going to get suckered into it again. This is a really good spot for him. Like he just does not get a ton of the work. Like, I don't know, 11 carries, 12 carries. Like, I know those games didn't mean much to them. But like they just like Hurts steals stuff from him on the goal line. It's not a great situation, but 5,700 is a very attractive price for a team that's a big favorite, and we expect to be playing from ahead the whole game. Like Sanders could find his way into 20 carries here at 5,700. I'm certainly going to take shots on that. It's burned me before this year. It could happen again, but I think you have to go right back there. I do like the passing game as well. Certainly don't mind picking on this Giants defense. AJ Brown is the clear number 1, like you said. Love Goddard as well. You can double stack that with Hurts if you want. I think it's fine to skinny stack Hurts also because of his rushing ability. And the Devonta Smith call is amazing. Like priced up right near AJ Brown and all the other elite guys. But he's put up some ceiling games. Like he's got a 34. Like he can score 2 touchdowns and have 8 to 10 catches. So he has the ceiling to hang with these top guys if he gets the touchdown variance. So he's going to be low owned. I do prefer AJ Brown, but I like the Devonta Smith call as well.
I mean, yeah, like at the end of the day, I don't see a lot of people playing Devontae Smith. And listen, I like AJ Brown more. Like, I'm not saying that I don't like AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown is the clear guy here. No one's going to play Devontae Smith is all I'm getting at. So they're both expensive. I don't want to play like Pascal or Watkins. Goddard would be like my third choice in the passing game if I was going to play a third pass catcher here for Philly. Cincinnati at Buffalo, 48.5 total here. Buffalo 5.5 point favorites. I mean, there's a lot of like this game is just kind of a lot of stuff surrounding this game. Hope this game plays and there's like just want nothing to happen. Like everyone stay healthy throughout the whole game. Man, should be a fantastic football game, and I'm excited for it. I think a lot of people are excited for it. This is the Sunday 3:00 game. This game should be fantastic. We'll go Cincinnati first. I mean, here we go. Like the first 4 games, the defenses were kind of shaky outside of Philadelphia, but now we get like 3 of the top 5 defenses in the NFL this season: Buffalo, Dallas, and San Francisco. Talk to me here about Cincinnati. I mean, Jamar Chase is probably looking at a gazillion targets in this game. I think he's fantastic. I think Joe Mixon, like, again, we keep talking about it. Like, he had that one blow-up game, and he hasn't really, like, had that game to beat us. Like, if he goes out and has a big game and I lose because of it, like, kudos to him. But I think I'll be underweight, maybe even fade Mixon completely. I like Burrow. I like Chase. I like T. Higgins. I don't know how much Hayden Hurst I get to, but he did have 6 targets last week, coming back and, playing pretty decent amount here in week 18 and week 19. What are your thoughts on the Bengals?
Absolutely love the fade Mixon call. Just dude has not been very good this year. That one game is pretty much the only time he's been fantasy relevant all season long. Now dealing with injuries along the offensive line as well. They lost their left tackle, Jonah Williams, last week, and they lost their right tackle a couple weeks before that, Lyle Collins, also missing another starting offensive lineman. So like the Bengals offensive line is in trouble here. And we're talking about an elite defense on the other side in the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not touching Mixon. He hasn't been efficient when he has gotten the ball. They've taken work from him down the stretch of the season. So I don't need to play Mixon at all whatsoever. Chase and Higgins are where I'm looking at for my Cincinnati exposure. Chase's role has been amazing. He's up there with the highest ceiling on the slate. Like if Cincinnati has a chance in this game, one of these wide receivers needs to go absolutely nuts. Higgins, you get the nice price discount. Chase has certainly had the better role, but Higgins does still have that upside. He's been dealing with injuries in the back half of the season here, but that ceiling is still there. So certainly don't mind taking some shots on him. I think their pass volume is going to be high enough. You can mix in some Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst as well, like you mentioned. Be totally fine with either of those. I don't even hate running 2 of them back on the other side of a Buffalo stack. I don't know how much Burrow I'm getting to, just because I think if this game is back and forth, I'd just rather have Allen. Burrow is certainly fine. You save a little bit of money, but I just like the ceiling better for Allen on the other side. So I'll have plenty of Chase, plenty of Higgins, mix in some Boyd and Hurst.
Going to the Buffalo side, I mean, this is the game that like Josh Allen was made for. Close, competitive game, a lot of emotions. Like, Miami made it interesting last week. Did not see that coming as a Dolphins fan. Buffalo tried to give the football game to Miami last week. They really did. And if Tua played and Buffalo played like that, we'd be talking about the Miami Dolphins this week instead of the Buffalo Bills. I think we see a big bounce back spot here for Josh Allen and this whole offense. I think they get rolling. They're like, oh, Stevie, bounce back spot. They won. They scored 34 points. You didn't watch the game. They look terrible. I mean, Josh Allen had a few, like, he dropped a few dimes in there. He did, because that's Josh Allen and that's what he does. But they did not play a good football game. I love the spot for Diggs. Knox is just so like touchdown dependent, but this is also a guy that scored at least 1 touchdown in 5 straight games. Probably more of a FanDuel play than a DraftKings play because of the touchdowns. I think he does have like 2 touchdown upside. Like he almost scored 2 touchdowns last week. So I think he has to be in the conversation for 38 because, I mean, when you get into like wide receivers at 3,800, you're talking like MVS, Gallup, Marvin Jones type plays, Richie James. And I think Knox like has that 2 touchdown upside and potentially outscores those guys in the flex. So I think that Knox has to be in the conversation this week as like a flex 2 tight end build type of play. Yeah, Diggs is going to crush. He's going to be targeted a gazillion times in this game. You have to play some Diggs. I think you have to take some shots here on Gabe Davis. I like Gabe Davis a lot more than McKenzie. And, I mean, if anybody watched the game last week, Cole Beasley out of nowhere was very involved in that whole game plan. So I think at minimum salary, Cole Beasley is like he's a tournament play. Depending on like how many lineups you build, like I don't think he scores a touchdown every game, but like where did this come from? Like he was legitly involved in the passing game. He was involved in the game plan. Singletary did not see the field a ton. James Cook outrushed him and looked way better. Running back situation still very murky. I talk too much. What are your thoughts here on the Bills?
No, you're good. I completely agree. It's Allen to Diggs is the best stack on the slate, in my opinion. Absolutely love it. Don't need to talk too much more on that. It's the slot wide receiver is important. Gabe Davis in play at 4,800, most definitely. With McKenzie returning, that definitely makes me concerned about Cole Beasley, and even Shakir had a decent role last week. He had like 4 or 5 targets. 5 targets. Caught 3 of them. So Shakir at minimum price could have been interesting, but McKenzie coming back just throws another wrench into this. I don't know. I'm tempted to take shots on McKenzie. Have to see what ownership looks like.
Yeah, so cheap. So like
Yep.
Beasley's 3K, McKenzie's 3.3. Like 0 to 1, group them and get exposure to maybe both of them if you really want to.
Yep. Yeah, love that call right there. I think the slot receiver, whoever is getting run, and they could rotate, but they're also near minimum price. Even if they rotate, one of them could easily get there, especially if they fall in the end zone like Beasley did last week. So yeah, whoever is running in the slot for Buffalo, I have a ton of interest in. We don't know who it's going to be, so you probably got to mix it up a little bit. Love the idea of making that group. Limiting it to only one of McKenzie, Shakir, and Beasley, and just having all 3 of them in the pool.
Yeah.
Like if I had to rank them, I'd probably go McKenzie, Beasley, Shakir, but like it's certainly not a fact that McKenzie's going to step right back into the role that he had before. It very well could be Beasley. He's had a relationship with Allen previously, and obviously they were clicking last week. So love that Beasley call too. And for Knox, yeah, you need a touchdown from Dawson Knox, but he, like you said, he's done it in each of the last 5 weeks, 3,800. Fire him up for sure.
Buffalo's so interesting because Allen's going to do Allen things. Diggs is going to get his production. It's just trying to figure out that like third piece you want to stack with those 2 guys.
Yep.
And the good thing is they're all really cheap outside of like even Gabe Davis at 4.8K. So like whoever you want to stack with those 2 guys, it's going to open up some salary. If I was going to play running back, it'd probably be Cook, but I don't know. Like running back is kind of weak this week. I say kind of.
It really is. I think you're definitely playing 4 wide receivers or 2 tight ends in the majority of your like portfolio. Like I don't see a need to play 3 running backs on this slate. I think there's a lot more upside at wide receiver, and even the 2 tight ends I think have more upside.
Yeah, because like Barkley and McCaffrey are 79 and 8K. You're telling me that they should be more expensive than Chase, Kelsey, Diggs, AJ Brown on this slate? No, they shouldn't. So
the wide receivers certainly have a higher ceiling for sure.
All right, let's talk about that final game. We got Dallas at San Francisco Sunday. I know matinee game, 6:30. I don't know. What would we consider Sunday night? It's not like necessarily like Sunday night. it's an interesting time. We'll just call it that. Like if you live in California, it's the matinee game. If you're on the East Coast, it's like right around dinner time. So I guess it's nighttime. I don't know. Listen, it's a 6:30 game. We got football. We're not complaining. Dallas and San Francisco. I think this has the potential to be the most competitive game. I also feel like this has the potential to be the slowest pace game on the slate. But I also think this game has the most potential to outscore its total on this slate. Defense, both sides, fantastic. Good defenses. We saw a different Dak Prescott last week against Tampa. This is the Dak we wanted to see all year. And I know like injuries did not help that, but he looked fantastic. 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just he ran another one in. He did Dak Prescott things. This is what we're kind of hoping for. Unless you were like me and you did not play a lot of Dak Prescott last week. Talk to me about Dallas. I think I like this game. I think I should be overweight on this game theory wise. Talk to me about the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's funny you said that you think this game has a chance to go over the total because I agree with you. And like we have 2 elite defenses here, but should be pretty competitive. Dak coming back and looking amazing after looking really bad to close out the season. Like he was throwing picks every single week, multiple picks every single week. Just was not looking good for Dak Prescott. So for him to show up in the way that he did in that playoff game, huge step. You have to have some exposure, I think. But CeeDee Lamb is very clearly the number one guy. Pretty easy to start your Dak stacks that way. But you have plenty of options from there. Dalton Schultz, we saw have a big game last week. Perfectly fine going right back to him. He has a huge role. Gallup, I just cannot figure out. Like, I know he's been a little bit better here recently, but still been a rough season for him. Excuse me. Getting a little bit of a little more work here recently. So it's encouraging. He's cheap. I'll have some exposure, but I think I prefer T.Y. Hilton.
Yep.
Talked about it a little bit last week. Like he's involved. He's on the field. Saw another 4 targets. So I'll go back to some Hilton. Probably not touching the running back situation.
I had a top 50 team in tournaments last week. Fall just short with a T.Y. Hilton, and he had that long pass attempt, and I was like, oh man, if that would have connected. Because he
has been so close to multiple 30, 40-yard touchdowns this year. Like there's been 3 or 4 of those. So I've been chasing it all for the last several weeks. It's coming.
Yeah, I'm not stopping now. I'm in.
Right.
I'm right there with you. We're team T.Y. Hilton. I think Gallup is, for his price, is great. Like if you're doing a 3-man Dallas stack, I don't know how many 3-man Dallas stacks I get to on this slate, but if you are playing Dak and you want to go a 3-man Dallas stack, I think CD is a must. I think most people will build Schultz. He had a really good week last week, like you mentioned. Talked about him last week. We didn't miss on tight ends last week just because none of the tight ends missed.
Right.
So it was really easy not to miss on tight ends last week. Because they all smash. But the interesting thing here is I think you have to take some shots on Pollard or Elliott. And I think that Pollard's the guy that I'm most likely to take shots on. I think he has the higher ceiling. Just the way the running backs kind of shape up this week, I think that you have to take some shots in this range. And I don't want to go 100% McKinnon. I don't want to go 100% ETN. I'm going to play some Sanders. And it's kind of one of those things where in a perfect world, we play McCaffrey and Barkley, but we live in a salary cap world, and we're not going to get both of those guys. You're going to sacrifice a lot to get both of those guys.
You're going to sacrifice Chase or Diggs or Kelsey or 2 of those 3 probably. So, yeah, it is a bit of a tough build. I don't know. I haven't built a ton. I messed around with it a little bit before we jumped on, but I haven't built a ton of lineups. I kind of feel like I might prioritize. That's why Miles Sanders, I think, is also an important piece. I love his matchup compared to Pollard. I think Pollard is a better running back than Miles Sanders, but it's just a tough situation here for him against his 49ers defense. So,
you can do McCaffrey, Barkley. You're likely going to have like a 2 tight end build, type of build, and you're going to need to go like Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott type of play, Trevor Lawrence type of builds, to get there. And like, you're still giving up something. Like you're still not like, you can get to maybe one of those top end wide receivers if you play like a Richie James or a Slayton or somebody, but you're still giving up a lot. You're going to need a lot to happen for the 2 running back builds. And I think most lineups this weekend will have one of McCaffrey or Barkley with a cheaper running back, 1 top end wide receiver. And maybe Kelsey just like goes a little under owned just because of his price this week. And so interesting thought, to get overweight on Kelsey because he's going to be underweight because of his price. And playing some like McKinnon Pollard lineups, type of builds, and getting Kelsey with a top end wide receiver. So a lot of different ways to build this week, which makes this week just so much fun. Again, said it at the beginning, fun week. We'll go to the San Francisco side. Listen, Brock Purdy just kind of keeps doing his thing, right? Like this guy, like he's getting compared to all these guys, and okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. He has a fantastic defense. He's managing games fine. He has Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle.
Yeah.
He has one of the best offensive lines in football. Let's calm down really quick. All right, so let's calm down, people. He's playing fantastic. I'm not discrediting that at all. I said last week that I think the San Francisco 49ers have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Talk to me here about the Niners going up against Dallas.
Yeah, like we've been talking about the Niners for weeks, and it's all those skill position players that you just mentioned. They're like their offense is just so difficult to stop because they have so many playmakers all over the field at every position. Yes, Dallas's defense is really good, but they've been able to pass every test they've been given so far. With Deebo back, Kittle playing much better here recently. Like I don't know. I love San Francisco. I think Deebo is my favorite play just because of his price at 5,900. He has massive upside. He gets rushing attempts. They design screens for him. And he has massive after the catch ability. So Deebo at 5,900, love him. Ayuk in play at 5K and Kittle at 5,700, absolutely there too. McCaffrey, I'm going to play him for sure. 8K is a lot. You definitely have to make sacrifices if you do it. But like he's Christian McCaffrey, one of the best fantasy players, point scorers that exist. So I definitely want some exposure. Like I don't love Kittle's price at 5,700, especially with Deebo back. Like we have seen Deebo impact him in the past. I do think he still has multiple touchdown upside, but I probably don't get to him near as much as I get to Deebo. And then maybe if you need a cheap running back, some darts on Eli Mitchell. I don't hate. Like you need him to score 2 touchdowns probably because he's not going to get a ton of work, but he's 4,700, and we just talked about running back not being the strongest. If he gets 2 touchdowns, like if say San Francisco gets out to a decent lead here, I think they could lean on Mitchell quite a bit, and he could score 2 touchdowns potentially. That'd be huge at 4,700.
Deebo's too cheap. I mean, we said it last week. I'm going to stand by it. I ended up being way overweight on Deebo last week because of his price and how easy it was to build around him. Like I just ended up in that range, like so many lineups, and I was like, I'm just going to keep playing him. Hopefully he gets there. And he did. So, I mean, I'm right back on the well here. I think he's way too cheap. Tournaments, I don't mind Ayuk or Kittle, but Deebo and Christian McCaffrey, I don't think I play Purdy in this game. I know what he did last week, but that was the first time this season that he's gone over 25 fantasy points. So much easier matchup against Seattle last week. Any final thoughts on this one?
Nope, I think that covers it. There's not a spot that I would say you can't, like, you can play every single side of every single game on the slate. It's just 4 awesome football games. Like it's a fun slate for sure.
It's a fantastic slate. It really is. Again, like I know I keep saying it, but there's just so many ways to build, and that's when the slates are a lot of fun. So, all right, let's play the morning grind game, and yeah, hopefully we can stay on fire. We had a good week last week in the morning grind game. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards. Who do you got?
Give me Trevor Lawrence. Not afraid of that Kansas City pass defense. They're going to be playing from behind. I think he's going to have to throw it a ton in this one, and I think he can have some success too.
Listen, I'm all for going different in this game. I am. I go different. I have some different plays, but I'm going to take Josh Allen to throw for 300 plus yards this week. Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Lone running back for a touchdown. We do have lineup HQ up here. First look like projected ownership. I'm going to make it under 20% this week because I think that is a lot more reasonable.
I've got one that we're currently showing 1% now. I just talked about him. Eli Mitchell is going to get work at the goal line. Like they're not going to slam Christian McCaffrey into the back of the line 3 times if they get down there. Not that he won't get any goal line carries. Eli Mitchell is still involved. I think he scored the touchdown here. I think at 4,700, I might take some shots there.
What's crazy is I thought you were going to take Tony Pollard. So I was going to take James Cook because I thought you were going to take Pollard. You went contrarian. So now I have to continue to stay with my James Cook call because I can't let you be more contrarian than me. That's not in my blood. Listen, James Cook looks way better than Singletary. Like, I don't care what the stats say. I watch football games all the time for a long time. And James Cook looks like the guy. Like he looks like the future for Buffalo. And what better time to let him unleash during the playoffs? I'm going to go with James Cook for this one today.
Like it.
Quarterback, wide receiver stack for a touchdown. Who do you got this week?
Probably the stack I've played the most this season. I love the Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown. Like you get a ton of upside from Hurts himself, but AJ Brown, like he has deep playability. He has after the catch ability. Love AJ Brown. So that I'm going to play a ton of that stack. I think it comes in a little lower owned than Allen Diggs and even Burrow Chase. So I'm going to be playing a ton of that this week.
I wrote down Hurts to Devontae Smith. For what it's worth. But I'll switch it up. I'll go a little off the board here. Give me Dak Prescott getting the touchdown to T.Y. Hilton this week. It's happening.
Oh, baby.
It's going to be like a 40-yarder, too, so it's going to be even better. You heard it here first. Morning Grind First Look podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. Just kidding. Okay. Listen, you do what you want to do. Wide receiver for 8+ targets. Who do you got this week?
Give me Christian Kirk. You talked about the 14 last week.
Did you read my sheet?
I noticed when we were going through that. We liked a lot of the same things. So
all right, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. Give me your spiel on Christian Kirk.
Just the game
we're doing
script,
NBA
man.
next Thursday.
That's it. Christian Kirk trailing. Lawrence is going to be throwing it a ton.
Yeah, whatever. Give me the cheaper Deebo Samuel. There you go. Yeah, want to one up me? Watch. I'll take the guy that's cheaper. All right, tight end for a touchdown. Listen, this is a position I feel like you're going to have to get right this week. Tight end is loaded, and whether you pay it for Kelsey or you take one of the shots on these cheaper guys, I think this is a position you have to get right this week.
Yeah, for sure. There are 2 that I really like. I'm going to stick with Knox. I just like his goal line roll is insane. It's 5 in a row. Like you're thinking, man, he just can't keep scoring touchdowns. But the fact of the matter is, like, he's just the number 1 option down in the red zone for them. 3,800, him catching a touchdown again. That's super useful. And there are 2 tight end builds, like you mentioned. I think that's absolutely in play again this week.
I'm going to go Schultz. I'm pretty sure I took Schultz last week. Did I take Schultz last week?
And I took Knox last week. I think you did, yeah.
No, I took Ingram. Oh, my bad. I wasn't wrong. Ingram, fantastic game. But did he score? He scored, right? I'm pretty sure he scored. Yeah,
I think he did. Yep.
Schultz. I like Dalton Schultz a lot this week, so I'll take him.
Love it.
Defense for 10+ points. That's hard. We're at that time of the season where this question is really hard. Which defense do you like this week?
Yeah, this is a difficult one. I'm going to go Buffalo because I think that Cincinnati offensive line is in trouble. Tough pass rush from the Bills. They're cheap too, 2,900. I was surprised that they were as cheap as they are. Yes, Burrow has a ton of upside. I think that Cincinnati can still put points on them, but the sacks should be there for Buffalo.
I'm going to go Dallas Cowboys. As much as I like this game, I feel like this is a spot that could potentially go overlooked a little bit this week. They get after the quarterback. You have a young quarterback in Brock Purdy. He might be the reason why the Dallas Cowboys win this game. So give me the Dallas defense. I'm going to have plenty of offense from this game. I do like the Dallas defense as a tournament play here. So outside of them, I'm with you on the Bills. I think they're too cheap. I know it's a matchup against Cincinnati, but listen, it's the divisional round of the playoffs. There's 8 teams left. You have some of the best teams alive. So you throw all that out the window. Kansas City is really interesting because the Jags are going to be throwing the ball a lot. Philadelphia is interesting because Daniel Jones is someone that will be chucking. And then I don't even hate the 49ers. So, defense this week is really, for me, how much do I have left?
Yep.
I'll play the Jags defense if I need the $2,200 defense. I don't care. It's just that time of the year. I just don't care. So anything can happen. The Jags defense can score a touchdown just like anybody else on this slate. So, all right. Off the fantasy side, we'll get into the betting side here. Favorite money line against the spread pick this week.
I'm going to continue to trust Brock Purdy. I think his weapons are phenomenal, and the defense is phenomenal. Give me San Francisco -3.5. I think they get it done against Dallas.
All right. I definitely don't hate that. Gosh, I can't even believe I'm saying this. But give me the Giants +7.5. If this line was 7, I would have so much more interest in just saying I'm out. 7.5, getting that extra half a point, I feel like is enough for me to have interest in the Giants. Daniel Jones has looked good. They have pieces. I think the wide receivers are playing above their talent, and I don't know if that can continue. But I think Daniel Jones can keep this game close. So give me the Giants +7.5. Not an outright money line bet like last week, but I'll take the points with the Giants. Over under. What
that
do you
would be a little insane.
Yeah,
I'm going to the
after watching last week, Keith. I think anything can happen in the NFL playoffs.
Oh yeah, you talked about Miami playing close, and Baltimore put up a good fight too. It was definitely anything can happen. Like you said, nothing should shock us. Over under, I am going to the highest total of the week, and I'm going over that high total. Jacksonville, Kansas City over 52.5 points. I think Jacksonville can score on Kansas City. We know what Kansas City's offense can do. I think this has a potential for a complete shootout here. If Trevor Lawrence avoids the early picks, he also showed last week that he can perform against some adversity as well. So I think Jacksonville can kind of stay in this game and push this total.
I'm going to go Bills-Bengals over 48.5. The Bills, they're good for 30 of those points. So can the Bengals score 18.5? I think so. Listen, Buffalo, all joking aside, Buffalo has scored at least 32 points in 4 straight games. This is the team that is just absolutely crushing. Josh Allen's having a fantastic year. So give me the over in this one. Player prop. Any player props standing out to you here? There's a few out there right now. I'm hoping we get some more here tomorrow. What are your thoughts on player props?
Saquon Barkley sitting at 23.5 receiving yards. I think the Giants are going to be playing from behind. He had 6 catches for 56 yards against Minnesota. 23.5 feels pretty light to me in a game that the Giants are trailing. Like, I know the receivers have been playing well, but if for some reason they don't quite have the success, Barkley could be even more involved in the passing game. So give me Saquon Barkley over 23.5 receiving yards.
This is up on a few books. I wrote this down and I saw that a few books took it off, but I'm going to roll the dice a little bit this week and say Pacheco under 55.5 rushing yards. If Hilaire comes back, I think that he could be involved. I think McKinnon's going to be involved. I think this is a game we potentially see Pacheco play under 50% of the snaps. So I'm going to take the under. Like I said, I'm going to roll the dice a little bit here and take the under 55.5 rushing yards. I think if Hilaire comes back, this line goes way down. So with him being designated to return and practicing Tuesday, I think that, man, it was an ankle sprain. It's been 9 weeks. I'm going to take Pacheco under here.
I like that.
Favorite sleeper pick. What do you got on sleeper this week? They have a few things up.
What do you got for Trevor Lawrence passing yards?
Lawrence passing yards. Let's see if it's up. 250.5.
Give me the over on that. It's at 255.5 on FanDuel. I like the over on 255.5 too, for what it's worth. But it was at 245.5 on Prize Picks, I believe, which is just way too low. Like I said, Jacksonville should be playing from behind, and Kansas City's pass defense is vulnerable. I think Lawrence can go for 300 here pretty easily.
All right, I'm going to go Stephon Diggs over 81.5 receiving yards this week on Sleeper. We're going to lock in Lawrence over 250.5 and Diggs over 81.5. Try to get our 3X here for our morning grind pick of the week. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Keith?
Fun slate. Should be another fun weekend of football. I don't have anything else.
It's always fun. This is the time of the year where football is so much fun to watch. The games are so competitive, and yeah, I mean, I think all 4 of these games should be competitive. So that's going to wrap it up here for Thursday's podcast. Friday, we'll be back talking some NBA. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. We'll see you again tomorrow.